Hi guys. I said hi guys. They're shit. Okay, right. We'll cut that bit out. Ready?
No shits either.
No shits. Yeah. Hi everybody. Welcome. Oh, that was a bit loud. Sorry. Hang on. Professional. Here we go. Hi everybody. Welcome along to the Free Men and Podcast, the podcast where free men share their views and experiences around one main topic, and that topic this week being when things go wrong. Hi guys. How you doing?
Hello,
morning, Ricky. Hey, Matt.
Good morning. Yes, I'm all right, Alan.
How are you? This is exciting, isn't it?
No,
It's
it
very-
is. I'm excited. I haven't done a podcast in ages, actually. So we had a podcast in the past, but no, it's exciting to be back recording with you two fine chaps. I hasten to add.
We did one last week, Alan, when we recorded the trailer.
Yeah, I know, but that's a trailer. This is a podcast episode.
True,
it's a big difference.
That's true. Well, this is a really good thing, isn't it? The concept this week is called When Things Go Wrong. And you two both know my story from a few weeks ago, but have things ever gone wrong for you two?
Yeah, massively. I think my life is a life full of mistakes, to be honest. I'll let Alan tell his story first, though.
Well, no, yeah. If you, it sounds like your story's going to be not if this is top trumps, but your story's going to be winning in a top trump style. But I mean, I'm happy to share my anecdotes on when things have gone wrong. Shall I crack on?
Yeah, I think so, Alan. And I think it's important for our listeners to understand that we are free human beings here, aren't we? That when we talk about this, we'll share some tips as well. So keep listening to this episode because we'll share some tips about how you can bounce from or bounce forward when things go wrong. So Alan, take it away with the first story. Go for it.
Yeah, well, so and so I have to say, so I am one of those, right, so I'm ridiculously pragmatic to the extent I can be emotional if I need to be, exactly if I need to be, that sums me up, and I'll have a little cry at the odd film. I think I cried when I watched Wimbledon, if anyone remembers that film off of the late 90s.
Kirsten
Paul
Dunst,
Bettany and
wasn't it?
Kirsten Dunst, yeah.
Yes,
I did. So that's where I'm at, and if I'm watching a Disney film with the kids, there will be some dust in my eyes. But outside of that,
Can I just ask, what is
Yes,
the
go.
weirdest film that you've cried at?
Right, I don't know that, but can I share a very right? So I have a friend, Dave, and the thing about Dave is, right, I'll save the story about Dave for another
Everyone
day.
has a friend called Dave.
Everyone has a friend called Dave, but it's relevant to the name of this podcast. But Dave has a story. He's also like that, quite emotional. He cried at the Warburtons advert when they carried out the burnt loaf of bread, if you remember that. So I, whatever any of us can come up with, that has to be the weirdest thing that he's cried. Someone's cried out on TV.
Wow.
Go on, carry on with your story, Alan. Sorry to interrupt.
Well, yeah, but now my story's rubbish, Matt, because yours is clearly going to be better. And we've just discussed Dave crying at a Warburtons advert, which is way better. But so I come from the camp where things don't particularly go wrong in life and business. I come from the world of where, there are learnings to be had. And this is not kind of I've sat there and forced this into my head. It's just ingrained in me. I kind of go, oh, well, nothing, you get a story out of it to share. However, I have had things happen which kind of are so far outside of life and business that they do sit there under kind of when things go wrong. And I have two particular examples. And oh boy, did I escape. So in a previous business, we had to go and buy a trailer. And we are driving down the A34 in a black van with a twin axle flatbed trailer behind us. And as we're driving along, all of a sudden the car got a bit heavy and all the cars around us are honking us and flashing us. Two wheels had fallen off the trailer on the A34. Now, I don't know how, but no one got hurt. No car. We've all seen Hollywood when a wheel goes through the windscreen, right? None of that happened. Everyone got away safe. Apart from, I'm now there is no hard shoulder on the A34. I'm on the side of the A34 approaching Winchester with a van and a long wheelbase trailer. Emily, my wife, two of the kids, and my mate Tom. Everyone got a mate called Tom as well?
Yeah.
Possibly?
Yeah, I've got a mate called Tom.
Everyone's got a mate called Tom. And
This is Top Trump's friends.
Yeah.
I know. And we had to walk to Winnall, if anyone knows Winnall in Winchester, to find somewhere to buy some wheel nuts to put the spare wheel on. We'd found one of the two wheels that had fallen off, and then we had to limp back home. So when things go wrong, that's my kind of thought of when
Did you not
things go
check
wrong.
the trailer before you... drove off.
Matt, that is the learning from the story. So we bought this trailer was second hand, right? And we bought it from this guy near Andover. And I grew up in Andover, side story. And no, I didn't check the wheels. He didn't say the wheels were loose.
Do you know what I've got this image of, Alan? Have you seen Snatch?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
When they drove off with the caravan. You like caravans?
Pretty much. That's exactly right. And so my other story is very, very similar. So I had an 11.5-foot solid paddleboard, right? It's on the roof of our van, our family kind of. Depends whether you want to call me a soccer mum or an adventure vehicle. I prefer adventure vehicle, but some people like to say soccer mum. And we're blatting down the M27 at the legal speed limit. And all of a sudden I hear gung, right? This paddleboard, 11.5 foot, that's twice the height of me nearly, because I'm 6'2", get whatever. 185, I like modern speak. And this paddleboard flies off the roof of the van. I see in the rearview mirror this 11.5 foot paddleboard spiraling through the air. Okay. I'm like, this is after the trailer story. So I'm thinking, I got away lightly at the trailer. This is the next one. And no one was hurt. So this juggernaut slams its brakes on to not hit this paddleboard. I'm thinking jackknife, pile up, M27, all down to me.
Fast and Furious.
You know, but the worst thing, exactly, full on, right. The worst thing is, I had to run down the hard shoulder in flip-flops. No one should ever be running down the hard shoulder. No one should run in flip-flops because you just, A, you can't do it, and B, no one looks cool running in flip-flops. Fact. So I'm running up the hard shoulder. There's this juggernaut. The car's all stopping, and I grabbed this paddleboard, went, sorry, mate, ran back down and kind of strapped it back up. And I think what had happened, in all fairness, just the ratchet strap had actually gone on the ratchet part. So it just kind of disconnected and unraveled and gone. But I'm really worried because both of them could have been very serious.
Well,
And I kind of get that these things come in threes. So now I'm super paranoid when I tow or when I've got something on the roof. So that's my thoughts on when things go wrong, you know. Cause
well, Alan, I do hope, and I'm envisioning that you are running down that hard shoulder in your bright yellow I'm Alan Braithwaite t-shirt. I would love to see that
Standard.
Who's Alan Braithwaite? What's he doing here? Yeah, you know.
Well, no, everyone's
In
got my name
flip-flops.
to the guy who caused the pile up on the M27. Yeah. So,
Yeah. Can you imagine that, seeing Alan on the news? Just massive pile up because of the paddleboard and Alan standing there in his t-shirt.
I mean, yeah.
Geez.
I
That's a
wouldn't-
way
I
to
wouldn't
promote the
ask-
digital circus, Alan. Get on the news.
PR. Digital Circus, did you mention that?
What was that?
Another
Digital Circus?
Digital Circus Live, 18th of May. It's our one day. No, come on, stay on track.
We need to
cover it
add,
later.
every time Alan mentions the digital circus, we need to add a clang sound effect.
Yes.
We need a butter. We need a buzzer. A buzzer. I can't even talk. Come on then. What's your stories? Because that's my
So
kind
I've got
of thoughts.
I've got a very similar driving story, and I think if we're going
I've
to
got one too as well now, Matt, because of Alan.
if we
So
go
Matt.
down the anecdote route, my mate Lee will always show up in one of these
I've got a mate
anecdotes.
called Lee.
Everything goes wrong when I'm with Lee. So there's two driving stories. The first one is I had my very first car, which was a Fiat Panda. Do you know, it had a very long gear shift, very, very long, like ridiculously long. Why they didn't just make it like very short, I don't know, because you're a man, so you can reach down. But it was up here. So we were driving along, and he had a Nissan Micra. So we're both early 20s, and he had the most terrible eyesight. He's now had his eyes lasered, but he had the most terrible eyesight, and he had this image of the Dukes of Hazzard. So we're driving down this country lane. And I mean the country lane as in it's just mud. And we're driving down this country lane. And on the side of the road, there are huge boulders. And I mean like huge, like size of a man type boulders. And we're driving along, and then there's this massive gap. And I see him swerve to the left. And I say, Lee, what are you doing? He said, I'm going to go through this giant haystack. Do you know like the Dukes of Hazzard do?
Well, but now I've got giant haystacks off of 80s British wrestling in my head as well. So you're driving through giant haystacks.
No, it wasn't
right,
a giant haystack. He couldn't see. It's a massive boulder. So we're both screaming. I'm screaming at him, Lee, that's not a haystack. He's got, for starters, if you drove at a haystack, you're not going to burst through it like Dukes of Hazzard. You're just going to smash the front of the car up. Yeah. But he had in his image, this image in his head where he was going to drive through this giant haystack. It was going to explode and make some sort of 90s film like episode where we both come out of it at the end and look like Yeah, we both get these two dolly birds.
Sorry,
from out the-
Max, a side
Yes.
question. Is this pre-GoPro and smartphone world?
Yes.
I mean, if it's...
Yes.
what a shame, because it would have been cool to see a video of this. Yeah.
Yeah, he didn't hit the boulder because I yanked the steering wheel away, which then spun, and then we ended up in a ditch. But because of the size of the Nissan Micra, and this is a story that I always tell, Lee was the first person to ever crash my car and put it in a ditch. But because of the size of it, we could just both lift it out and put it back on the road.
Wow.
But that's what you could
love
do
that.
in the 90s, wasn't it? You could just drive and just...
I had... can we do car? Is it cars?
I've got a car story. I've got a car story,
cars
actually.
as an episode idea.
Can I just say
Yeah.
that Fiat Panda, I left, and this is what you could also do in the 90s. You could just leave cars on the road and then they just disappear. But my clutch burnt out halfway up a hill, and I was trying to drive up the hill in third, and I just couldn't get. It wouldn't go. Then the clutch seized, and then smoke started pouring out. So I just got out the car, locked it, and walked away. And I've never seen that Fiat Panda ever again. That was the last time I ever drove it.
Wow.
Delayed reaction. Did you not say Nissan Micra in that story as well?
Yeah, he had a Nissan Micra. I had
Right,
a Fiat
okay.
Panda. Yeah,
Was it a Panda 4x4?
No, I wasn't that cool. When I went for my first car, it was either a Fiat Panda, which my mum wanted me to have because she was funding this expenditure, or I went to view a car and it was a pink Mini but with rally lights. Do you know the 4 rally lights on the front bonnet? I wanted the Mini. She got the Fiat Panda.
Nice.
I'm not bitter.
No, don't hold it against her. God bless her.
Well, do you want to hear my car story then when things go wrong
Yeah.
as well? Because it's a very relative episode. I didn't have this scripted at all, Alan, and you've just prompted me to say this, so I love this.
Well,
So
this
I
is
had
good. We should be off script.
That's right, yeah. I had a 1996 P-Reg Ford Fiesta, the white one, really cool car. It was my first car as a 17-year-old. It had an 8 balls of gear stick, little Gecko air freshener on the window.
Dice?
Fantastic. No dice, no. It was classy, mate. But anyway, there was an issue with these Ford Fiestas that the spare wheel was in like a metal case underneath the car, and it was just in like a hatch sort of thing. I didn't know this at the time, so me and my friends, we thought it was hilarious to go around one of the estates near us with lots of bumps. We thought we'd go over really fast, and lo and behold, my mate was shouting at me at the car. I went, "Fuck, what are you doing? What are you doing?" Sparks were coming out my car.
There goes the swear ban.
Sorry, yeah, sorry, we'll have to complete that out.
Whatever.
Complete that out, yeah. But the metal case had dropped onto the floor and sparking. And then my bloody spare tyre just rolled out and started rolling down the road. So we had to run after it and grab it. I was like, Jesus Christ. But the second thing is, well, and it's with this car as well, like, this is something really bad. I'm going to own up to something that I've never owned up to on live podcast to the world. So whoever is listening, if they know this, then I might get in trouble for this. But anyway, when we was like 17, 18, when we were cool, we used to drive around and hang around in McDonald's car parks, playing our music on my CD player and things like that. And there was a time where we were going, we used to park in Summerfield. Do you remember Summerfield?
Yes.
Yes,
Okay,
which is
Morrison's,
now obviously
isn't
now
it?
Co-op.
I used to
right?
fix
Oh,
their
it's a co-op.
tills in a previous job.
Ah, right, yeah. It used to be Gateways, didn't it? And then it went into Summerfield. And we used to go, it was classic. We'll meet you at Summerfield car park. Yeah, we'll meet you there. And then one time, for some reason, I had to drive off because I had a gig that night. I was going to go see a band play in Peterborough. And we were all parked up, and I just decided to reverse really fast. Didn't realise. And as I reversed, there was a parked car behind me. Now, by the way, this is at night time. And I just started reversing really fast. Didn't even look behind me. And went, I went, oh, shit. And I reversed so fast that this car, it had its handbrake on, and I'd knocked the car actually up onto the pavement. I was like, oh, shit. And I drove off. Now, I know as an adult now that I'd be absolutely furious if that happened to me, right? And I didn't know what to do. I was only 17. I drove off.
Hang on, can I just say, I've done that as well.
Oh, you've done that? We've all done that? Okay, right. It's a normal thing.
I formally declare that I have driven into a parked car, and then driven off.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't do it post 30.
No,
I'm now
yes,
40, so,
yeah. Yeah,
I'll just say that.
I smashed their rear light. And
Alan,
also smashed mine.
Alan.
I don't know if I have. I am sat here. I mean, I've written a lot of cars off in my time, right? Which we can say for the car episode, which I've just made a note of. But I don't think I've done that. I'm really trying to think hard, actually. So yeah, my
was just
crashes
ignorant.
were all a bit
Yeah.
more public. So
This is the reason now why I park my car on the opposite side of the supermarket where there's 3 spaces, and I always park across 2. I'm that guy. So that nobody
do you drive a BMW, Matt, as well?
Yes.
You're all over those Facebook pages, Matt, aren't you? Where people
Yeah.
complain about
That
it.
is me. Yeah.
Oh,
Sorry, Ricky, you're mid-story.
Yeah, sorry, yeah. So I smashed the rear mirror, the rear light on my driver's side, and I was shit scared, thinking, oh my god, what is my dad gonna say? Furious, you know. And to this day, I've never told him. So if he listens to this, I don't think he will, but if he does listen to this, he's gonna find out. The next morning, what do you do in that situation? You call your brother. I call my brother, Paul, you got to help me out, mate. You've got to help me out. I did something stupid last night. I reversed into a car. I smashed my light. He went, no worries, Rick. Just park up the road where mum and dad won't see you, and I'll meet you at the scrapyard. So at that night, obviously, I parked. I was thinking, to this day, mum and dad have never said, Rick, you always park there. Why did you park up there? And I told them, I think, there was a car parked there, so I couldn't park there. But I'd purposely moved my car about 100 metres up the road, so mum and dad, if they woke up and opened the curtains, they wouldn't see the rear. Anyway, I met my brother, you know, shaking, thinking, oh, what's Dad going to do? Dad's going to kill me, you know. And this was the joy. This is how I learned about the joys of a scrapyard. You just walked into a scrapyard and said, hi, mate, have you got a P-Reg Ford Fiesta rear driver's light? Yeah, here you go, mate, 20 quid. Oh, brilliant, thanks, mate. And my brother got his screwdriver out and fitted it on for me, and then I drove home. And to this day, my mum and dad never knew that. But I think one of the things here which we'll connect to is about this thing when things go wrong, the panic and the frustration that happens. You running down the hard shoulder, Alan, me thinking that I'm going to die by my dad, is how do you deal with that? So when things go wrong, how do you deal with that?
Now, Ricky, I think this is very profound and it needs thought, but I can't get past the scrap heaps in the 90s, scrapyards in the 90s, if I'm honest.
Oh, it's the 2000s, I should say. Sorry, 2000s. Yeah.
So can we come back to the question? Because because what I used to love about going to scrapyards, and I have one round the corner, and it is very, very different to what it was back then. And you would walk in with your little toolbox, you'd go, yeah, mate, I'll have the light, and he'd go, whatever, 20 quid cash, back in the cash days where cash was king. Your toolbox would have been full of odds and ends that he knew none the wiser about. But now everything's like scanned in, scanned out. And it's like, how do you do these things? Anyway.
Yeah.
I do remember the days where you used to be able to just... Because I used to... Again, I had a Fiesta, right? And you couldn't open the driver's door because it would fall off. So you had to enter the car through the passenger side door. And this was in the days... It passed its MOT... then the door hinges broke like a month later. So I just had 11 months where I knew I had a car and I just saved for the 11 months whilst getting in and out the passenger side. But I went into a scrap heap to try and find a door hinge, but then it involved welding and all that type of stuff. And I just thought, nah, forget that.
Well, this is just reminding me again. I think I've just realised now that this Ford Fiesta was the worst thing in my life. There's one. Can I share one final story? It's a very quick one about it.
Yeah.
The last thing I think that happened to me in that car. So if you remember the days when you had CD players, you had to put in that unit and then you had a slide-on like cartridge that was the front. So you take it off every day, put it in a case, put it underneath your driver's seat. So if anyone's looking in, they'd say, oh, he hasn't got a CD player, that kind of thing, right? And I remember one day I was driving to Argos. I was about 18, driving my mate. We were listening to music really loud, running late because he was a good guy, but he was one of those guys that smoked the old funny stuff, if you know what I mean. So he was always late, a bit lazy, that kind of thing. And we drove. Yeah, this podcast I've just realised is definitely going to be explicit now, isn't it?
No, it's a choice. It's a choice. It doesn't need to be explicit.
But so we were running late and we drove to Peterborough. There was a big multi-storey car park. And because we were so late, on Sundays you could park for free. And the only space was right at the top of this multi-storey. So we parked up, got to work just in time, did the day, had some fun and giggles and all that. And then at the end of the day, we were leaving and we were walking out onto the multi-story. And I thought, oh, bloody hell, everyone's gone home. My car's the only car left.
Can I just say, Alan and I should try and guess what happened next.
Do you want to? Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
Alan, what do you think happened next to his car?
I'm going to be honest, I've got no idea. So he's on the top of a multi-story and no, I don't know. And please,
I'm going to say that your handbrake failed.
So it's a bit. I don't know. It wasn't. I don't know if it's as bad as that. Well, I think it's worse than that actually. So
I think that story would have been before the other story if it was that bad.
Well, we walked out, and my car was the only car there because every other car had gone home. And I was like, oh, bloody hell, all the cars are gone. And then I looked across and went, that is my car, isn't it? And Gam, my friend, was like, yeah, it's your car. And I went, there's someone in my car. I was like, what?
What?
And I went, bloody hell, there's someone in my bloody car. What's going on? And it was someone that had broken my window and trying to nick my car stereo. I was like, so we were shouting, going, oh, you fucking Brit, and all this, running after him, going, give me your CD player back, and he'd obviously seen us. So we were running over this multi-story. My friend Gam was, so he was into like kind of heavy metal emo music, and he used to wear his trousers around kind of his ankles, so like his arse was showing sort of thing. So he's waddling like a penguin trying to go after him. I'm shouting, hey, you, and all these, C words and all that. Thankfully, he got scared by my alpha 18-year-old male self, right? And he dropped the CD player. So he'd only run away with just the cartridge bit. And thankfully, it still worked. Now, Gam got the bus home. I had to wait for the police to come. The police turned up and they did all their dusting for prints and all that. And went, no, mate, there's no prints on here. Can't do anything about it. And I went, oh, thanks, mate. What am I going to do about my window? Oh, we'll sort that out for you. And obviously glass was all in my car. And this man came, I don't know who he was, but he gave me a bin liner to stick in front of the window. And I had to drive home all the way for about half hour with this bloody bin bag flapping in the wind on the side of my car. And obviously my CD player just a bit broken. So yeah, and that was a tough time.
I think we've all had a car which has been cursed. I have had a car that's been cursed.
Every car. Yeah. I have not had success in buying. Well, look, we're still on cars.
We're still going on about cars. Shall I tell you my story? The one that I had scripted in my head.
Yeah. Yes, go.
So, as you both know, I'm a former soldier, and that has a myriad of stories attached to it. However, I want you to picture, I'm in not the first Gulf War, but the first tour. So it's Operation Telic. Telic stands for Tell Everyone Leave is Cancelled. Operation Telic. We've just crossed the border from Kuwait into Iraq. We're just coming up to Nasiriyah and we're setting up our raided detachment. We've been in this detachment for 4 or 5 days. Haven't seen any resupply, so we're eating all of these ready meals and all that type of stuff. And we're sat there and we're playing chess because all we're doing is manning radio stations. We set up a toilet maybe 25, 30 metres away from our raided detachment, just a big bucket with a black bin bag. And all you do is you do your business in the black bin bag, tie it up and then put it in the hole and then bury it because it's just very sandy. So I'm sat there, got my rifle to the right of me. I'm sat on the toilet. I'm sat there, and it's facing away from the detachment because you don't want to watch people playing chess or doing whatever they're doing whilst you're doing a number two. So you're sat there, and I can see this figure coming out of the desert. Bearing in mind, if I said the word prisoner of war, you'd think you're bursting through doors, kicking the doors down, throwing flashbangs, get down on the floor. No, this was a guy with a towel around his head, clearly absolutely exhausted, knackered, had been in the desert for days. But I'm sat there with my kecks around my ankles, like finishing number two. I can't shout because I don't want him to know that I've got other people there. So I can't shout. So I'm going, guys. I'm trying to, obviously I'm having a crap. The guys that's playing chess, they all look up at me. What? I'm going, ah! This guy's walking out the desert with an AK-47 above his head. So at any moment, I'm literally shitting myself because he could just decide, oh, there's about 5 of them coming now. So there's this guy and he's coming out the desert and he walks towards me. And then suddenly I hear these thundering footsteps where the other 4 guys have noticed this guy coming out the desert. They all start doing what they're trained for. One runs around the side. They're all pepper potting, going towards the guy. Get down on the floor. And I'm just sat there with my kicks around my ankles, just going, shit. And then I'm trying to pull my trousers up, trying to wipe myself, trying to tie the black bag, then pick up my rifle and run. That's the worst thing that I've ever experienced in my life. You'd expect, as a soldier, to be fully trained for any situation. I was not trained for that situation at all. I've never been so scared.
Is that not on the curriculum now for the
no. What to do when having a poo if a POW approaches you?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Bloody
and
hell,
we kept him for 2 days. Fed him, watered him. I don't think we tied him up actually.
Just your shit in a bag. That's what you tied up.
Hold this.
But we had this. So we tried to. We had his AK-47, and we told the authorities. no, he didn't have any weapon. And we tried to disassemble it and shove it underneath our Land Rover and underneath our radio detachment so that we could smuggle it back into the country so that we could then like fill it with cement and then put it on the wall and say, this is what we did as men. But I think as coming through customs, I think they do quite thorough checks, and it wasn't there when we got the...
They get funny about that. I mean, that's another kind of thought process in itself, isn't it? I think, you know, I'm now properly back on track of when things go wrong. Do you... So, you know, even Ricky, I think I know your scripted story, which I think you should still share in a second. But do we think, like, is it perspective? So is it a thought process? Is it perspective? Is it choice on what you allow to affect you? Or now, I think we have to accept there are things universally accepted that can go wrong, right? That are tragic, terrible, and everything else. And are we saying that kind of small? I want to say small. I don't want to do it any disrespect, but that kind of ring fence is probably better to say than small. Now, ring fenced example, as none of that has happened to us, we kind of have chosen as kind of individuals to go, well, these things just happen in life, so you keep moving forward. You know, is.
Yeah, it's how you learn from that experience, isn't it? You know, there was a great metaphor I read recently about the rear view mirror in your car. The rear view mirror shows you what's behind you, so the past is the past. It doesn't define who you are.
Ricky, Matt drives a BMW, mate. He doesn't know.
Oh, of course. Yeah, that's true. That's true.
I've got two sticks that come out of my steering wheel as well. I don't know what they do either.
That's
lost
killed
your
that
photo.
now, isn't it? Yeah, thanks for
I'm sorry.
Kelly.
I'm
No, that's all right. Yeah, but the past is the past, isn't it? It doesn't... Don't get stuck up on it. You know, it's happened, but it's how you move forward from it. So when those things go wrong... There's a lot of things that happen, isn't there? Like, I mean, when I had the car accident, the limbic part of my brain, that chimp is screaming, going, "Oh, your dad's going to kill you, mate. Your dad's going to kill you." And you're like, "Oh no, what am I going to do?" You know? And I'm like, Paul, help me. So, but it's important to understand that things will go wrong, but there are some things that you can do, but it's how you learn from that experience. Like you, Alan, you've learned to tie, I think, was it better or check it better? I learned obviously with my my metal case to actually fasten it correctly. Matt's learned to not take a shit when a POW is walking.
When in war.
Yeah.
But I think it also... So I'm quite well known for not getting stressed about things at all. And I think that is one of the experiences that I've taken away. So when you're in that highly stressed environment and you're sat there and there is a clear threat of death because this guy's got a weapon above his head, actually, when you've got a bill that's a week late and you're being screamed at because, oh, you need to pay this 60 quid. Actually, that doesn't really matter. And things do go wrong. Sometimes you do forget to pay a bill. Sometimes you do forget to indicate when you're driving a BMW. So you don't need to stress about the little things. And I think when you focus on the bigger stuff, and I think what you're saying there, Rick, Alan, about the ring fence stuff, like things do go wrong. People do break their limbs. People do like... All of that stuff, obviously care about, but don't care about the little stuff. And laugh about stuff that you've been through as well, because there's no other way to deal with it.
Well, you think about the last 12 months with COVID. Oh, sorry, Alan. Sorry.
No, it's all right.
You know, with the last 12 months, when you think about everyone's businesses were destroyed, you know, people started thinking, well, how am I going to earn money? But then on the opposite side of that was that people got to spend time with their family. People got to enjoy the finer things in life. And, you know, although, yes, it was definitely difficult, things went wrong for all of us, but there is an upside to it as well. But it's about, like you said there, Matt, it's that perspective. When, you know, I'll share my story in a little bit, but when that went wrong, what was the bigger point? You know, the most important thing was that I was alive and I'm breathing, you know, so there's nothing more better than that, is there? So whatever else is a bonus. And it's about looking at things in perspective. Family's safe, I'm healthy, I'm breathing. It's not really that much of a big deal, is it?
And I think there's a big thing on that, Ricky, on like hindsight is a wonderful thing. I've got a couple of thoughts on everything you guys say. So one is, I think that perspective, you can help your own perspective. So not just choice, right? You can choose to do so. We all have the power of choice. It's about the only thing we actually have the power to do in the world is to choose, right? So we can choose whether we let things upset us or not, but we can help those choices by perspective. So I've got a loose gun related story. I wasn't in the army. I'm a true believer that us civvies will never ever truly understand what you kind of soldiers have to go through, right? I just don't think we'll ever understand that. But when I was traveling through Guatemala on a chicken bus, and they're called chicken buses in Guatemala. Hold on. This is serious.
I just like how you've gone. I like how
Yeah.
you've gone from we'll never understand
No, we
the
won't.
depths of mental stress that you go through.
but
However, I was in
truly
Guatemala
believe.
on a chicken bus.
No, we won't. But we got the bus got pulled, like that's their local buses, and the bus got pulled over with guys with guns, right? And all the men got taken off, and I'm there with 3 girls. Hello, and I got taken off the bus, right? And they're basically checking all the men with these guns, and I'm thinking, I'm the one most likely to get shot right now. I'm kind of a foot taller than everyone else and clearly not a local. And, and I didn't. Hello, I'm still here. And everything else. But for me, that's just a story I tell down the pub, right? Or I tell on a podcast with 2 guys. But yeah, these kind of experiences we have, never going to understand what you've been through, Matt. These experiences we have help you with your choices. I'm a big believer in that, So
Well, it's that past is the past, isn't it? It makes you who you are. It doesn't define who you are. It's made you to the point you are right now, but it's not the destination. It's just a part of that journey, isn't it? So, yeah, it's interesting, isn't it, though? Because I think some people, they wear that victim T-shirt when things go wrong. They can get really hung up on it, really hung up to the point where it will drain them physically and their mental health wise as well. Like when I had shall I just share my story with that? I had a bit of context on it about the laptop. Yeah. So some of my friends will know this, but a couple of weeks ago, my laptop just packed up. Now, there's a lot of things that ties into this. I guess 12 months ago, I obviously lost my business, obviously COVID, like many people out there. And for the last 4 or 5 months, I've been really, I guess, successful. I've been, living off magic, which I'm very grateful for, and I've been in the online space. My laptop died in the week I had 6 shows. My behaviour was terrible. I was erratic. I was a knobhead to Danielle, I think. I was just, oh my God, woe is me. Oh my God, what have I done? This is not fair. Life's terrible. And it really wasn't a big deal. It was just the case of, Ricky, your laptop's broken. But there were some key things here that I think we'll have to probably discuss on another episode, which was about beliefs. A big thing for me was the money belief. It was, I haven't earned money in 6 months. I'm now earning money. If I now cancel these shows, I'm not going to earn money. So that limbic chimp was like, Ricky, this is bad. You're a failure. Oh no. And that drove that behavior for me to respond in that way. When I then kind of sat down, realizing, right, I can't control any of this, can I? It's gone. What can I do? I can't do anything about it. I send a message to my friends. 2 friends, Alan and Matt, said, get a bloody Mac. Right? And I'm like, all right, whatever. Yeah, okay.
Solution. We're men, straight into solution mode.
Straight
Get a Mac,
into
sort it,
solution
Ricky.
mode.
Stop
That's
moaning.
it.
You know?
Yeah,
Put
stop
on the
moaning,
credit
get
card.
on with it. Yeah, get on
stop
with it. Get on with
moaning.
it. But for me, it was just like, oh my God, and I reached out to a couple of friends and he said, oh, Ricky, I've got a laptop you can use. I went, really? Thank you. But my head didn't think, oh, who's going to help me? Because it was just all victim T-shirt. Oh, this isn't fair. This isn't fair. But then when I had that hippo time, like Paul McGee says in sumo, it was just a case of, right, okay, it is okay to feel
What's
crap
hippo
and
time?
feel rubbish.
Sorry, I don't.
Yeah,
Oh, sorry,
You're
yeah,
well
yeah,
more
yeah.
like, I don't read any of these books. You
Yeah,
need to tell
yeah.
us about all this.
Tell
So
us
hippo
hippo
time is basically when things go wrong and you respond in a bad way. Hippo is like a hippo wallowing in the mud, just wallowing, being miserable, fed up and things like that. And the point of the fact is that it's okay to be upset, to be, pissed off when things go wrong. The real thing is to not do it forever. As he says, the wallowing is not your destination. It's just part of that journey. It is okay to be pissed off and miserable like I was, but not for a long time. It's temporary. So have that moment, get annoyed, and then do something about it. And then all I did was, after I was going, oh, yeah, like this, I just said, right, okay, I'm going to crack on. And what did I do? I ordered a Mac. Way!
Yeah.
Sorry,
yeah.
listeners, Ricky has ordered a Mac. We told him to do this probably 5 or 6 weeks ago. He's still not using it, right? He's still using the borrowed laptop. He's had the Mac for a week or so. He's still not using it.
Yeah, I
Feel
know.
free to send Ricky some abuse on the socials, please.
Thank you.
Ricky Lock
Yes,
Magic,
thank you.
at Ricky Lock Magic.
Thank you, Alan. Thank you. And if my friend is listening to this, I don't think he knows that I'm using his laptop. So thanks, Alan, for sharing that. So thank you. Anyway, thank you. But yeah, so yeah, you're absolutely right. But it's the point of like perspective. What was the main thing going on? Yes, my laptop had broke. It felt like it was in the world. But what was the real thing? I was alive. I was breathing. I've got a roof above my head. There's food on the table. There are far worse things going on in the world. People are dying right now. There's a global pandemic. And I'm moaning how privileged I sound that my laptop has broken. And when I got off that high horse, I just thought, right, you know what? I can't control this, but what I can control is my response, you know?
Sorry, Ricky. I may be privileged with my laptop being broken, but I'm going to solve it by buying a MacBook.
yes. But it's the thing, isn't it? You know, at the end of the day, it's you've got to choose how to respond to that in the right way. You know, what could I do? I couldn't control any of it. All I could control was, yes, I did buy a MacBook, but that was because I earned some work from it, which helped out. But I just chose to respond my behaviour in the right way. But
there's also a thing here, Ricky, about comfort in numbers. So the media perpetuate this world of things always going wrong. So people think things are going wrong. People are talking about things going wrong. And we get into this, it's okay not to be okay, which obviously it is okay to not be okay. But it's okay not to be okay, and things going wrong and woe is me all of a sudden becomes cool and becomes socially acceptable because everyone's talking about it. It's being led by the media and everything else. So Emily and I, well, mainly Emily, because she does these sort of lives when we do them on Instagram, she did something about actually it's okay to be okay. It's okay to be positive. It's okay to kind of go, shucks, that happened, but I'm going to move on from it and kind of, you know, buy a MacBook to solve it and everything else. So it is okay to be okay.
Have you ever invented a reason that you needed to buy something knowing that you didn't need to buy something? I'm just going to share my example. I've bought a drone. I don't need a drone. I think I've used it about 6 times. But when I created the reason behind needing this drone, I sold it to everyone. My wife was sold on the fact, we need a drone. Have you ever invented a reason? Like, I'm talking from a privileged perspective again, because you've gone out and bought a MacBook and you clearly had a need and a reason for it. But have you bought something that you didn't actually need, but you just created a reason why you needed it?
Yeah, I guess.
Alan's looking around the entire room.
Yeah.
What do I choose first?
Yeah. I think we do, because I think social media does this, doesn't it? It portrays that you are inadequate in life. You see all these wonderful things of people having drones and things like this, and it makes you feel inadequate, thinking, well, I think I need that to be like that person. And it's a damaging world, isn't it? Because you see all these influencers and all this in the world where people get quite hung up on it, don't they? You know,
is that why you bought your ukulele, Ricky?
It's true, yeah. That was a lockdown project that did. So for listeners that are listening...
So this is the invented reason. It's a lockdown project. I need a ukulele.
Yes. Well, no, it was a want. I wanted it. I really wanted it. But
I'm a big believer.
I wasn't good at it, yeah.
Yeah, I think Matt, I don't disagree with what you're saying. I think we all do this. And that perhaps why you're in sales and a sales coach, because you can do those things. But I think sometimes people go down the need it when actually, as Ricky said, it's okay to want something. We're not on this world for a long time. It's okay to do things that are just going to make us happy, you know. And as long as they're not at the detriment to anyone else or yourself, it's okay. It's absolutely okay to do something you want to do once in a while.
Love that.
Well, you know what, Alan, a great friend of mine, Lee Horton,
everyone's got a mate called Lee.
Yes, we said that. Yeah, bloody hell, yeah. So I was trying to rack my brain, thinking I don't think I've got a friend called Lee, and I have, yeah. So Lee came onto my my Unlock podcast.
Lee's going to be grateful for that.
He is, yeah.
Lee, I even know who you are. I'm a friend of yours on LinkedIn. You did a great poll recently.
Yeah. So, you know, he had a great story, you know, a bit of a sad subject where his friend died, but his friend said, like, before he died, I've got 3 life lessons for you, Lee, which is always be yourself, make great friends and great connections, and live your life, because time is limited. So what you were saying there, Alan, absolutely, go do the things that make you happy. You know, it's important, isn't it? You're on this earth for however long. When that goes back to that perspective, when things go wrong, what if, this is going to sound really morbid, but what if we passed away tomorrow? Would you be happy, you know, by that? If I'd had passed away that day after the Mac, I would have had complete regret knowing that I was a twat. You know, I was a horrible person, erratic person. But if I'd have known that was my last day on Earth, would I have chosen a different response? Of course I would. So, I'm sorry to add a serious tone, but it's about putting things into perspective, isn't it? When things go wrong, what's the perspective here?
Sorry, Matt, go on, mate.
No, I've got a perfect story. Again, I said every single anecdote will involve my mate Lee, but I've got a perfect story that will go with this whole tone. So I want you to picture this. So this is probably, I think it's 8 or 9 years ago now. So I was single. I wasn't with my current partner. I was out on the dating scene, and I text my mate Lee and said, mate, I need to see you. We need to talk about, I can't remember who it was, but it was some girl at the time. Excuse me. Right. So I've texted him and I said, I need to see you. It's a matter of life or death. I need to speak to you. And Lee and I have been mates since we were 16. So I go round to his house and we're sat in the garden and his partner's there. His partner's 7 months pregnant, eight months pregnant. And we're sat there and we're having a cup of tea. And then my mate Lee just clutches his chest and he's like this. And we're, so it's 8 or 9 years ago. So we're probably early 30s. And he's clutching his chest. And then he starts breathing. And he falls to the floor. So literally he is dying in front of me. So he's having a cardiac arrest. Now we know it's a cardiac arrest. But he was having this cardiac arrest, which is really funny because I've texted him saying it's a matter of life or death. So being military trained, and this is quite a somber story, and I get that, but there is a good ending to it, so don't worry. So being military trained, I jumped straight into action. I start doing CPR, chest compressions, breathing for him. We call the ambulance. The paramedics on the phone or the emergency handlers are counting me and going, right, do these chest compressions. 1, 2, 3. I'm there for 25 minutes doing this, and all of the thoughts are going through your head, and in the back of your head, you're thinking, it's not going to work, it's not going to work, it's not going to work, I've got to keep going, it's not going to work. Then suddenly you feel this massive sense of relief as the paramedics flood in. They're hitching them up with drips. They start getting the blowy thing where you squeeze the blowy thing. So I move from chest compressions because my arms are absolutely knackered to the to the blowy thing. You do that. Then they bring in this, like, doctor arrives about 10 minutes later with this massive machine, which they slide a board underneath him, screw in these 2 bolts. It's got a massive machine. I'm doing the actions so people who are watching on YouTube can see. But it's got this massive machine which sort of encapsulates his chest. And it's just a massive machine which just goes boom, bang, 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 bang on his chest to do the chest compressions. So that's 45 minutes before they get him into the ambulance. They get him into the ambulance, take him to the local hospital in Portsmouth. I think it's the QA. So he's in hospital. They put him into an induced coma. Thankfully, 3 days later, he comes around from the induced coma. No brain damage, though some would say that he had brain damage before. So no brain damage. He's perfectly fine. And that is an immediate perspective about what is important in life. Because you're sat there having a cup of tea, and my best mate, and he's still my best mate, just dropped down dead in front of me. And thankfully, he's here today. He's got a little pacemaker in his chest. But that immediate perspective, and thankfully, his son was born 2 months later. He's taken my name as his middle name, so he's Billy Matthew. So, and all of that has led to me believing. Do you know the famous Mark Twain quote? You're born. There's two things you're put on this earth for. I can't remember the quote, but the second one is about when.
Yeah, that was such a profound,
very famous quote. Yeah, very famous quote.
But there's something about when you realise what you're born for and what you're put on this earth for. And I believe that was it. That moment when I saved my best friend's life, he'll never forgive me for breaking 3 of his ribs, but he's still here. So it's that immediately like perspective about what's important. And I remember driving home from his house because he'd gone to the hospital. Driving home we sat in the hospital for about 2 hours with his mum and dad. And his mum hates me because when he left, he joins the Navy. There's loads of anecdotes out of this, but he went off to join the Navy. He only lasted 6 weeks because he was a raving alcoholic. But before he left, I bought him a top shelf. So his mum always believes that I got him into alcohol because I bought him the top shelf of the alcohol before he went to the Navy. So his mum never liked me. Now she cannot stop raving about me. She loves me. So all of that, I remember driving home in a daze from the hospital thinking, what's just happened? Like, not knowing who to call, like you're just like, and then I remember waking up and I had to go to work the next day, and I'm like, what's the point? What's it all for? Just sat in bed, just like, and
it's all irrelevant, isn't it? It does all become irrelevant.
Yeah, it comes down to that fact, doesn't it? Are you really living your life? And when you think about that perspective of when things have gone wrong for you two and for me, there are people that I've lost in the last year that would love, I'm sure, they died of Parkinson's and cancer. I'm sure that they would love to swap with me right now, even though I'm bloody moaning about a bloody insignificant laptop. I'm sure they'd love to swap with me right now to still be here with their family. And that is the real perspective, isn't it?
Powerful, isn't it?
It is.
But yes,
I have to just say, as I'm an overthinker, I talk about this every now and then, like a proper full-on overthinker. Like before you've even thought about it, I've thought about it 1,000 times in every possible way. It's just part of my character. And it's a part of that is I quite regularly think about, if I was on my deathbed, what would I be regretting, thinking about and not? And literally all the things I worry about or argue about with Emily, my wife, sorry, if I was on my deathbed, they would not even factor in. You know, like you said, Matt, about your £60 credit card bill or whatever size bills you've got. You know, they just, I mean, the problem is we live in this world where they're kind of put in front of us for almost hurdles to overcome, and these hurdles get bigger and bigger. So yes, there is an element of you have to deal with the hurdles coming at you, but it's almost they're more
society led rather than actual emotional.
That's it. Yeah.
Emotional
agreed.
drivers.
It feels like a full circle, isn't it? We've because you're absolutely right. It's how social media and social society makes you feel, doesn't it? You know, and that's why those little things. Oh, I haven't got that, so maybe I need to worry about that. But look, guys, I think that we could talk about this for a long time. I think we might have to title more episodes about cars and the
90s.
Matt having a poo. Yeah, Matt having a poo. But anyway,
I've got loads of stories about having a poo.
I got loads of stories.
I've actually
You haven't got loads of stories about me having a poo, Alan.
I've got stories about throwing poo in a bag. Yeah, that's for another podcast. But anyway, look, for everyone listening, thank you for listening. If you still listen to this and listening about Matt having a poo, me losing my spare tyre, Matt and Alan running down the hard shoulder in his flip-flops and his bright yellow t-shirt, then thank you for listening. But anyway, at the end of each episode, we will share 3 takeaways from this episode. So I'm going to pick Mr. Alan Braithwaite. What's your takeaway?
I was secretly hoping it wasn't going to me. So I got to do 3 takeaways, or am I doing 1 and it's 3 between us?
Let's do 1 each.
Look, do you know what? My takeaway is going to be today. It's kind of twofold, so I could have done 2 or 3. Look, I'm a big believer in choice. We have the power of choice, but you may need to do some thinking or research to support your choices, like, if that makes sense. So it might not be as simple as going, I'm going to choose to do that today. You might need to go through a bit of kind of planning, prepping, thinking to enable you to make that choice. But we have the power of choice. Choose when you're able to.
Love that. Thank you. And Mr. Matt King, what is your takeaway?
I've got kind of twofold as well. The first is to never ask Alan to transport something for me in a car. That's the first, because it will end in disaster. The second one is sweat the big stuff, not the little stuff. The big stuff is what matters. You're returning a broadband hub to Sky, which is the bane of my life at the moment, is never gonna, like you said, Alan, is never gonna factor on my deathbed. I'm never gonna lie there, and my final breath is, please return the Sky broadband hub. I'm never gonna say it.
Yeah. So. What was Matt's final thoughts? Oh, it was about Sky. Oh, really?
Sky broadband. Yeah. What? They got an offer on.
Go on, Ricky. What's yours, mate?
Yeah, so mine's twofold as well. There we go. I've joined the trio. Yeah, it's similar to what Alan was saying. I think the first thing for me is to think about perspective. You know, reframe the situation. What's going on? What's the bigger picture here? Not just that short-term thing of your laptop going wrong. What's the bigger picture? And yeah, as Alan said, really, it's a choice. You know, things will go wrong, and that's fine. You know, it's just how you respond to it. So make a choice. If you need to have like a day on Netflix to be pissed off when things go wrong, then that's fine. But just, it's temporary. It's, as Paul McGee says, it's not your destination. It's just a bit of a detour. But get back onto it and make a choice. And that, guys, I think is the end of our episode. So thank you so much for listening. Don't forget to head over to Apple Podcasts, Podchaser, leave us a review, hit a 5-star rating. That will really help us get this podcast out to more listeners. Guys, did you enjoy the episode?
I did. Have I got to do that when I host then? That kind of... That was just natural and seamless, Ricky.
It's because I'm a podcast professional, Alan.
We've also got... We'll also have videos everywhere as well, won't we? Like on our socials and YouTube and that type of stuff. So
on the socials,
we'll work it all out. We'll work it all out.
Yeah, we're working out. Anyway, look, guys, I'm going to press... we're about to press stop, really, aren't we? So, guys, thank you for listening. Don't forget to leave us a review and subscribe. I'm going to say goodbye from Ricky Locke.
Goodbye from Matt King.
Everyone. Oh, bye from Alan.
See you next week, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.